welcome. Sorry for being a little bit late. Just to wrap up on the 2025 trade deadline, just briefly on the process. This is an ongoing process where year-round we're evaluating players from other teams. We're evaluating organizations, what their needs might be, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. At the same time, maybe more importantly, we're assessing our own team, our own needs, our own organization, and from there you develop, a players of interest list that you want to work off of in terms of trying to improve your team, and then you get to work on that part of it. So for us, I think I said to you guys at the opening media availability, we liked our team, we like our centers, we like our defense. I think they're among the very best in the NHL. We talked about potentially needing a veteran winger at some point during the season. That's been a belief or an opinion we've held throughout. I've been tremendously encouraged by the growth of the game of some of our younger players. When I look at Pavel Dorofeyev, when I look at Keegan Kolesar, Brett Howden, those guys have done a really nice job. They've taken tremendous steps forward in their game, which for me is in part due to their continuing commitment to improve, but it's also somewhat attributed to the fact there was more opportunity for those players to grow. I look at what Tanner Pearson has done coming in off of a PTO, turning that into a contract, scoring his 10th goal the other night. I think Victor Olofsson has been a good add for us, brings real good skill and playmaking to the position, and from there, the regular guys that have become cornerstones for our team, the Stones, the Eichels. Jack's probably having his best season offensively. When I look at our back end, how well Shea Theodore has played, the group of six, how well they've played as a group, the job that our coaches have done. So there's a lot of things about our team that I feel are in place and where we would like them to be as we head into the stretch drive and playoffs. We had an opportunity with Brandon Saad present itself when he took a termination and a buyout from St. Louis. He interviewed different teams to determine where his next team would be. His priority was going to an organization he felt were committed to winning and that could win. He selected our organization after a period of time. We were fortunate that it's given us now, I believe he's played 9 games, that he's had to get into our organization early, which really helps, I think, with the transition. He looks to be a good fit, looks to be the type of player that we were looking for. A 2-time Stanley Cup champion, so he's got good playoff experience, good playoff pedigree, and that was, I felt an important add. And then yesterday, the addition of Riley Smith, who you know well, and for me, Riley gives us really good utility as a player, and that he plays either wing. He can play both special teams. He's got tremendous chemistry with some of the players on our team. The transition, the fit is completely seamless. His teammates are thrilled to see him. He's thrilled to be part of our organization again. And I think it was the ideal fit in terms of what we're trying to do. So he arrived in town last night. I know you saw him on the ice this morning. He'll play tonight, and that was the final move that we made. So I think when we look at what our objectives were, last year was a different approach, and last year the most important work that we did is still on our team. When I look at Noah Hannafin, how well he's playing, Thomas Hertl, what an important part of our team he is. Those two guys have become really key players on our team. Those were moves that we made last year with this year and subsequent years in mind. So that was our work in some respects began at that time, and brings us to where we are here today. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. I guess I could say just before we move on, just somewhat a state of the union. We're 61 games in. We're in first place in the division. Of course, that can change. We don't think that that's something we can rest on. I do feel that we're playing well right now. I think when you look at our season, we had an exceptional October, November, December, January. I believe we ended up 6-6-3. It felt at times a little bit like the dog days. I think we played better hockey in the month of January than perhaps what our record reflected. It felt good to get to have a good road trip east, going into the Four Nations break. We were able to win our last 2 games of that trip in New Jersey and Boston. We've come back, and out of the break, we've had 4 wins out of 5 tries. I really always feel just how I sort of evaluate or forecast a season, the stretch of time from what is usually the All-Star break to the end of the regular season. This year it was from the Four Nations break to the end of the regular season. That's really when your team needs to take another step, needs to gel, needs to get playing the best hockey that they can play, which is going to set you up for playing well in the playoffs. I think this is exactly what happened in 2022-23 when we won the Stanley Cup. We were, I think, 22-4-5 coming out of the All-Star break. We went into the All-Star break that year, struggling. We were scuffling along, and I thought that we really turned the page coming out of the break and right on into the playoffs. When you look at the playoffs, we went 16-6. So, that's what we hope to do. No one knows if it'll be that, but we want to keep getting better. We want to keep getting better. We've had some real positives since the break in terms of our team play. A little bit more depth on our lineup now. We're encouraged that William Karlsson isn't far away. I expect that he should be back somewhere on our upcoming trip. At least that's what we project. Shea remains out week to week. He's going to be a little bit longer still from his injury in the Four Nations, but we do expect that we'll have him back in the not too distant future. And when you look at additions to your lineup, those are 2 tremendous players to put back into our lineup when the time comes. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, and we'll go through it.
Kelly, when we talked to Riley this morning, he had said that it somewhat felt like he was coming home after, going to Pittsburgh, then New York. This one felt different. I think it was fortuitous also that the renters in his house just moved out a couple of weeks ago. What was the first conversation like for you with him today or last night? And could you sort of sense that feeling of a little different elation by him?
Well, it's a unique situation, and it's ironic it happened elsewhere in the league with Tampa reacquiring Yanni Gourde, who had tremendous success in Tampa. Some of the similar reasons why he was moved on from and then reacquired. I was really happy. I was really excited to bring Riley back. You guys probably have got a sense of how happy he is. I opened the call by saying I'm more excited about this call than I was the last time I phoned you. And that goes back, of course, to being in Nashville at the draft. Was a complete pro throughout, and that speaks to who he is, the character he has. I know when we had him, like you, Steve, my phone ding in there. When we had him at the White House, it just felt like he'd never left. When he was around our guys. And, we played in New York before the break. I had a chance to say hi to him. I know George saw him and Melissa had a good visit as well. So, I think he has a lot of respect for the organization. We have a lot of respect for him. That's why this came to be. And a need. It was exactly what we needed. So, the backstory is really neat, and I'm really happy for all of those reasons. This was about our hockey team. That's why we acquired him.
Kelly, it's such a unique situation because you're bringing back a player who won the Cup with this group and is familiar with everyone in the organization. Usually when you go into the deadline, you acquire a player kind of like last year. They have to get acclimated to everything. How much of it does that help in this stretch run, knowing that Riley is so familiar with everything already?
Well, I think it helps a lot. I think that Bruce knows exactly what his game is, exactly what his capabilities are, how he can be used, who he can be used with. I think it's seamless for Riley with his teammates in terms of being comfortable, just fitting in with the team. Don't forget he was an alternate captain here for the biggest part of his time in Vegas. He adds to our leadership group. He's a guy that's won a cup. Obviously, it's with us, but that experience at playoff time. So I think it helps a lot. And I touched on it earlier here. Brandon Saad having 9 games before the trade deadline, that helps too. the timing of that acquisition, I think, is beneficial as well, because there is a transition, and you guys work in the business, I work in the business, you overlook, some of the things that go with it when you've got to move your family, you've got children, you've got kids in school, you've got kids in sports, activities. Those things take time to iron out, and as you mentioned, Willie, in Riley's case, even the fact that his house is empty, who knew that ever that could line up that perfectly for him. So Riley's here on his own this week. When we go on the road, he probably shared this with you, when we go on the road this week, I think his wife and family will come back once we return from there, and he'll be old times for him.
Jack has played heavy minutes this year on special teams, his regular 5-on-5 shift. With Riley's return and his ability to be such a good penalty killer, do you think that this is an opportunity to manage Jack's minutes a little bit better and maybe save a little fuel for the playoffs?
Well, Riley will help our penalty kill. He's a really good penalty killer. And in theory, Steve, you're right. In practice, it's like every other part of Jack's game. Jack never killed penalties when he got here. Once he starts killing penalties, he's one of the best in the NHL. So I'll be surprised if Jack Eichel and Mark Stone aren't the first two hopping over the boards like they always have been. But I think we can manage it somewhat. I mean, Jack's still going to be a big part of the penalty kill, but Riley, and Bruce will decide who he is paired with. But certainly Riley and William Karlsson killed penalties together for years. There's a lot of that's where the familiarity and the chemistry with a teammate or a line is valuable, and I expect that that'll be something that we see a fair bit of.
There were a lot of reports this year, and there have been in the past, that you guys were kind of looking into a number of different things, even down to like the last hour or so. There were reports that you were close, or maybe things were happening. Was there anything that you felt like may occur that didn't?
Not at all. We did exactly what we intended to do, and it's just, it's the time of year, it's the nature of the industry, and it just, no, I think I might have said to different, maybe it was you, Danny, that I talked to, this is kind of what we expected to do, and we're adding 2 veteran wingers to a good hockey team. That's what we wanted to do, and that's what we've done.
You mentioned that Riley was excited, his teammates were excited to get him back. When you were weighing to trade for Riley, or maybe the other options that you had out there, the impact it would have on the team emotionally, did that play any factor in deciding to choose Riley?
It's a, I would call it a consideration, maybe a bonus. He was the right guy for all the other reasons, though, also. He's had a really good year. He played on the top line with the Rangers. The situation there changed a little bit with the trade of when they acquired JT Miller, because it moved Mika Zibanejad to right wing where Riley was playing. That's, I think, why he was available and why we could acquire him. So the hockey piece of it, he was the right guy, and yet certainly all of those other elements of it are real positive. Our players are excited to have him. They're excited to see him back, and they were sorry to see him leave. All of those things that come with being teammate with a guy that you want to Stanley Cup with.
Do Willie, then Steven on this side.
Kelly, when you take a look at the moves across the board now and with what the Golden Knights have done, how would you assess the Western Conference arms race, if you will?
Well, I think, Willie, that we've known for some time the West has been so strong all year that you were going to need to beat 3 really good teams to get out of the West. That's that's been crystal clear. By U.S. Thanksgiving is always the benchmark that people like to use. The West appears to be a little bit stronger than the East. I think 2 years ago in the East, all 8 teams that made the playoffs had 100 points. This year the West is incredibly strong. You don't have to beat all of the teams; you have to beat 3 of them. to get out of the West, right? So there's going to be, when you look across the league just as a hockey fan, there's going to be some unbelievable playoff matchups. It will be fun to watch, and it's going to be a great challenge. You know, we got to make the playoffs still. We haven't done that, but it's going to be a heck of a challenge right from round one. And you're gonna, you know, the year we won, we beat all good teams. You know, we beat the Edmonton Oilers, who, you know, I felt had an unbelievable team that year. We beat a really, really good team in Dallas. We beat a team in Florida that won the Cup the next year. So that's the nature of the business at that time of year. So I think that, you know, we anticipated when you kind of project what will go on across the league. I really thought that the West would strengthen themselves.
Kelly, I think how important was the salary retention? Riley's going to be only 25%. You guys will be responsible for, and then the other part of that is Brendan Brisson going to New York and just what he meant to the organization. Now he gets an opportunity to go to New York.
Yeah, good question, and I'll start with the last part of it. Brendan Brisson's a talented young offensive player that we think and hope a change will help him, and it's he's had real growth in his game in terms of the things that he needed to get better at. The things that he's always been good at, he's been snake bit. And sometimes young players need a change, and I think it'll help him. New York will assign him to Hartford, and I think that you know, they're going to give him a chance. The first part of your question with the salary retention, when Riley was traded from Pittsburgh to New York, there was salary retention there. Then from New York to here, there was more salary retention. That's what makes these deals happen. When you look across the league at a lot of the deals, you know, first of all, you go into the trade deadline, most of the contending teams are always at the cap or near the cap, and we do things during the year to accrue space, which, you know, you've seen different times where you've got guys going up and down and you sort of wonder what's behind it. It's about that. And, you know, by managing our space over the course of the year, we had, you know, enough money to do this with the salary retention from New York. New York had enough cap space to be able to do that, so that's how this one comes together.
Anything else for Kelly today? Vince, take one final one.
Kelly, you touched on it in your opening statement, 21 games left in the season. You like the run of play recently. I'm curious, with the acquisition of 2 Stanley Cup winners, is there confidence? I know there's always confidence in the group and you like the team, but confidence knowing that these guys, you have a bunch of winners in the room, they can look at the time, see the final stretch, and know when to turn it on. And do you see that happening as this is unfolding?
Well, I think as you get closer to playoff positions being finalized, closer to the playoffs, for me, I think across the league, players are a little more engaged. Players on teams that are, you know, planning and hoping to win, I think get more and more excited by that. You know, I don't know that for us, January, if it wasn't a little bit of the dog days, which when you look at the schedules, not just our team, when you look at the schedules of NHL teams, there's bound to be a stretch there. And if you can have it be 1 month long, I think I said this maybe on with Darren one night on the pregame, if it can be 1 month long, you probably can still be, you know, a team that's going to contend to be a first place team. You know, if it happens 2 or 3 times, you might be struggling to make the playoffs, right? So, you know, we hope we've turned that page. I'm encouraged by how we're playing. To maybe a little more specifically to your question, I think there's a really good energy around our team right now, a really good vibe. I think we're super excited to get Riley. I think we're really looking forward to getting William Karlsson back in our lineup. He's such a valuable player to our team. You know, and then, you know, in time, Shea. So, you know, when you've done it before, which our guys have, you know what it needs to look like. You know what it feels like. A lot of things have to go right. You know, there's there'd be, you know, 10 teams today that think they're going to win the Stanley Cup, or their goal is to win the Stanley Cup. So a lot of things have to go right, and you put yourself in a position to have that happen. So I think in terms of the character of the leadership, the experience, I think that's all there. The other thing that's a little different this time around is it's also exciting when you have some guys in your room that haven't won, and you've got, you know, you're surrounded by you know, pedigree, championship pedigree all over, but you're excited for a guy like Thomas Hurdle, how excited he's going to be if you're able to do that. So that's an interesting part of it as well. We've got, we had a little bit of roster churn this past year, so it does put some people in the room that haven't won. And yet, Brandon Saad's won twice, Tanner Pearson's won in LA, so it's a pretty good room in terms of that part of it.